There are moments in life when a believer feels an uncomfortable stillness. You make dua, you wait, you try again, and nothing seems to change. The heart whispers a dangerous thought. Asterisk, has Allah gone silent? Asterisk, but this is where understanding must replace emotion. Silence from Allah is not absence, and it is certainly not neglect. In fact, divine silence often signals that something far greater is unfolding beyond the reach of our limited perception. Human beings are conditioned to associate activity with noise. We think progress must be loud, visible, and immediate. Yet some of the most complex processes in existence occur in complete silence. A child grows in the womb without sound. Seeds break open beneath the soil where no one is watching. Healing in the body happens quietly, cell by cell. If Allah designed the natural world to grow in silence, why do we expect His mercy and wisdom to always arrive with instant clarity and visible signs? Psychologically, silence is uncomfortable because it removes our sense of control. When there is no feedback, the mind fills the gap with anxiety. We begin to interpret silence as rejection, when in reality it may be refinement. Allah does not respond to us the way humans do. People speak when they are unsure. Allah is silent because He is certain. His silence is not confusion, it is confidence in His plan. Philosophically, silence forces the believer to confront a deeper question. Asterisk, do I trust Allah only when I understand Him, or even when I don't? Asterisk, faith that depends on constant reassurance is fragile, but faith that survives silence becomes unshakable. This is why Allah sometimes withholds immediate answers, not to push us away, but to pull us deeper into reliance. When there is nothing to hold on to except Allah Himself, the heart either collapses or matures. Look at the lives of the prophets. There were long stretches where revelation paused, help seemed distant, and outcomes were unclear. Yet those quiet periods were not empty, they were formative. Allah was strengthening patience, deepening wisdom, and preparing hearts for responsibility. Silence was not the absence of divine attention, it was the evidence of divine preparation. From a personal growth perspective, silence exposes what noise hides. When outcomes are delayed, intentions are purified. We begin to ask ourselves, asterisk, why am I making this dua? Is it out of ego, fear, desperation, or sincere trust? Asterisk, Allah's silence has a way of stripping away superficial faith and leaving behind something real, grounded, and enduring. Many people give up precisely in these moments. They stop praying, they stop trusting, they stop hoping, thinking Allah has stopped listening. But what they fail to realize is that the silence itself is a form of engagement. Allah is observing how we behave when there is no immediate reward. Do we become bitter, or do we become better? Do we walk away, or do we draw closer? The believer who understands this does not rush Allah. They remain consistent in worship, calm in uncertainty, and hopeful without evidence. They know that Allah's silence is not a closed door, it is a curtain. And behind that curtain, things are being arranged in ways the mind could never calculate and the heart could never predict. So, the next time you feel that Allah is silent, pause before you panic. Ask yourself whether you are standing in a moment of abandonment or in the middle of divine construction. Because when Allah is silent, He is not absent, He is working, and often He is working on something far more important than what you asked for. He is working on you. After understanding that Allah's silence is not absence, the next struggle the heart faces is time. We are not just uncomfortable with silence, we are deeply impatient with delay. We live in a world trained for immediacy. Messages are delivered instantly, results are expected quickly, and success is measured by speed. So when Allah does not respond according to our internal timeline, the mind begins to question His care. But this is where perspective must be corrected. Delay in Allah's plan is not postponement, it is precision. Allah is not reacting to events, He is arranging them. What appears late to us is never late in divine calculation. Time itself is a creation of Allah, and He is not bound by it. When something does not happen when we want it to, it is not because Allah missed the moment, it is because the moment has not yet arrived. And the truth is, Many of us ask for outcomes while being unprepared for their consequences. Psychologically, delay serves a powerful function. It exposes our relationship with desire. Do we want the blessing, or do we want the wisdom to carry it? Many things break people not because they came too late, but because they came too early. Allah delays not to frustrate, but to protect. What you are waiting for may require emotional maturity, spiritual grounding, or a shift in intention that has not yet occurred. Consider how often people look back and say, "I'm glad that didn't happen when I wanted it to." At the time, the delay felt unbearable. Later, it feels merciful. Allah sees that future before you ever reach it. He knows which doors would have harmed you if they had opened sooner, and which paths would have destroyed you if you had walked them prematurely. Delay is not denial. It is safety wrapped in patience. Philosophically, divine delay dismantles arrogance. It reminds the human being that control is an illusion. We plan, we calculate, we predict, but Allah decides. When our plans are delayed, the ego is humbled and the soul is refined. We are forced to confront a difficult reality. I am not in charge, and that is not a weakness. It is a relief. Trusting Allah's timing frees the heart from the exhausting burden of needing everything to happen now. Delay also deepens sincerity in dua. When answers are immediate, gratitude is shallow. When answers take time, the heart learns consistency. You begin to call upon Allah not just for outcomes, but for strength, clarity, and patience. The relationship shifts from transactional to transformational. You are no longer saying, "Oh Allah, give me," but "Oh Allah, guide me through this." Look closely at your life, and you will notice a pattern. The moments that shaped you most were not the ones that came easily, but the ones that made you wait. Waiting teaches discipline. Waiting builds resilience. Waiting teaches you to rely on Allah when there is no guarantee of relief. And that reliance is worth more than the relief itself. Many people abandon faith during delay because they mistake timing for indifference. But those who remain steady discover something extraordinary. Allah was not delaying the answer. He was aligning the conditions. He was adjusting people, softening hearts, removing obstacles, and preparing outcomes in ways no human effort could achieve. So if you are waiting right now, resist the urge to rush Allah or lose hope in His plan. Stay obedient, stay patient, and stay sincere. Because when Allah delays something, it is never random. It is deliberate, it is wise, and it is precise. And when the answer finally arrives, you will realize it did not come late. It came exactly when it was supposed to. After grappling with silence and learning patience through delay, the heart often reaches a more painful conclusion. Maybe my dua wasn't accepted. This thought quietly drains hope and weakens resolve, but this assumption is built on a misunderstanding of how Allah responds. No sincere dua is ever ignored. It is either answered in the way you asked, delayed for a better time, redirected into protection, or preserved as a reward beyond this world. What feels like being unheard is often Allah choosing the most merciful option for you. Human beings interpret acceptance through immediacy. If the outcome appears quickly, we call it success. If it doesn't, we label it failure. But Allah's acceptance is not measured by speed or visibility. It is measured by wisdom. Just because you cannot see the impact of your dua does not mean it is not working. Many of Allah's responses operate quietly in the unseen, protecting you from harm you never realized was approaching or guiding you away from paths that would have broken you. Psychologically, unanswered duas challenge our understanding of fairness. We ask with sincerity, effort, and emotion, expecting a direct return. When it does not come, disappointment sets in. But what we often fail to recognize is that we are asking with limited knowledge, while Allah responds with complete awareness. You are asking for what you think is best. Allah gives what He knows is best. That difference changes everything. There are moments when Allah withholds what you ask for because giving it would harden your heart, inflate your ego, or distract you from what truly matters. At other times, the very thing you are pleading for is the source of future pain. Allah's mercy sometimes arrives in the form of a closed door. And because we cannot see the harm that was avoided, we mistakenly grieve the blessing that was never meant for us. Philosophically, this reframes the purpose of dua. Dua is not a transaction where Allah is obligated to deliver a specific outcome. It is an act of servitude, trust, and surrender. When you raise your hands, you are not just asking for a result. You are acknowledging your dependence. The greatest outcome of dua is not always what changes around you, but what changes within you. Notice how dua softens the heart, humbles the ego, and reconnects the soul to its creator. Even when the request is not fulfilled in the way you expected, the act itself draws you closer to Allah. And that closeness is never wasted. In fact, many scholars have said that Allah loves to hear the voice of a servant who calls upon him repeatedly. What you perceive as delay may be Allah giving you more time in His presence. Sometimes Allah responds by replacing your request with protection. A relationship that did not work out, a job that fell through, a plan that collapsed unexpectedly. At the time, it felt like loss. Years later, it becomes clear that Allah saved you from something you could not have survived. That was your dua being answered, just not in the form you imagined. And then, there are duas that Allah stores for the hereafter. This world is temporary, and not every justice, healing, or reward is meant to be delivered here. When Allah preserves a dua for the next life, it is not because He values you less, but because He intends to give you something far greater and far more permanent. So do not stop making dua just because you cannot trace its outcome. Do not reduce Allah's generosity to your expectations. Keep asking, keep trusting, and keep believing that every sincere word you whisper is heard, recorded, and responded to in the most perfect way. Because a dua never disappears, it either changes your life, protects your future, or saves your akhirah. And that means it was never ignored. When answers are delayed and duas seem to echo back in silence, Allah is often doing something far more subtle and far more important than changing your circumstances. He is changing you. Many people focus so intensely on what they want from Allah that they overlook what Allah wants ** them. And this is where a profound shift in understanding takes place. Before Allah transforms your situation, He often transforms the heart that is living inside it. Human beings naturally believe that relief comes from external change. If the problem disappears, peace will follow. But Allah, in His wisdom, knows that without internal growth, even the best outcomes can become burdens. A heart that is impatient will remain restless even after success. A heart that lacks gratitude will never feel satisfied. So Allah begins the work internally, refining character, strengthening faith, and correcting perspective long before altering the visible reality. Psychologically, this period can feel frustrating because growth is invisible. You cannot measure patience the way you measure income, status, or results. You do not wake up one morning and suddenly feel transformed. Instead, change happens quietly. You begin reacting differently. You pause before complaining. You rely more on Allah than on people. These shifts may seem small, but they are signs of deep internal development. Allah is building emotional resilience and spiritual maturity, qualities that no external blessing can replace. Philosophically, this reflects a central truth of faith. Allah is more concerned with who you are becoming than what you are acquiring. Outcomes are temporary. Character is enduring. A person can lose wealth, health, or status, but the patience, humility, and trust formed in the heart remain. When Allah delays what you ask for, He may be preparing you to receive it without being destroyed by it. Consider how many people are given what they desire only to lose themselves in the process. Success without discipline leads to arrogance. Love without emotional grounding leads to dependency. Power without humility leads to corruption. Allah's delay is often a form of protection from becoming someone you were never meant to be. He reshapes the heart so that when the blessing arrives, it becomes a means of gratitude rather than a source of downfall. This is why waiting periods often feel spiritually intense. You become more reflective, more aware of your weaknesses, and more conscious of your dependence on Allah. You begin to see how fragile your control truly is, and in that realization, sincerity deepens. You stop negotiating with Allah and start surrendering to Him. You are no longer saying, "Oh Allah, give me what I want," but "Oh Allah, make me who I need to be." From a behavioral perspective, this internal work changes how you move through life. You become calmer in uncertainty, more measured in response, and less reactive to disappointment. You stop chasing outcomes and start cultivating consistency in worship and character. This is not accidental. Allah is aligning your inner world with the outer reality that is yet to come. Many people mistakenly believe that if their situation has not changed, nothing has improved. But if your heart has softened, your patience has increased, and your trust has deepened, then progress has already occurred. Allah measures success differently than we do. What looks like stagnation from the outside may be profound elevation on the inside. So when you feel like nothing is happening, look inward. Ask yourself how you are thinking, how you are responding, and how you are relying. Because Allah's greatest work often happens in silence within the heart, long before it becomes visible in life. And when the external change finally arrives, you will realize that Allah was not withholding it from you. He was preparing you for it. When everything has been explained, when patience has been encouraged, and when inner growth has begun, there remains one final test that defines the quality of a believer's faith. Trust in Allah. When there is no visible evidence that things are improving, this is the stage where silence becomes a mirror. It reveals whether tawakkul is merely a concept we speak about, or a conviction we truly live by. Most people believe they trust Allah, but in reality, they trust outcomes. As long as progress is visible, doors are opening, or relief feels close, confidence remains strong. But when signs disappear and effort seems unrewarded, trust is exposed. Tawakkul is not believing that Allah can help you. It is believing that Allah is in control even when help has not yet arrived in the form you expect. Psychologically, humans crave certainty. The mind seeks patterns, timelines, and guarantees. Silence removes all three. And when certainty disappears, anxiety rises. This is precisely why Allah allows periods of uncertainty, not to destabilize the believer, but to detach the heart from outcomes and attach it to Him alone. A heart that relies on signs will always fluctuate. A heart that relies on Allah remains steady even in darkness. True tawakkul does not mean passivity. It means effort without obsession and hope without desperation. You continue to do what is right, praying, striving, correcting yourself without demanding immediate results. This balance is difficult because it requires surrender without resignation. You work, but you are not consumed. You hope, but you are not dependent on how quickly things change. Philosophically, this level of trust confronts the ego at its core. It forces the believer to accept that understanding is not a prerequisite for obedience. You do not need to know why Allah is silent in order to remain faithful. You do not need to see the full picture in order to trust the one who sees all of it. This is the difference between conditional faith and surrendered faith. History repeatedly shows that those who reach the highest levels of closeness to Allah endured the longest periods of uncertainty. Their strength was not in knowing how things would end, but in refusing to abandon Allah when they did not know. They trusted His wisdom more than their own reasoning, and His mercy more than their fear. From a practical perspective, silence reveals attachment. When things do not move, what do we cling to? Do we cling to prayer or to panic? Do we draw closer to Allah or drift away in frustration? These responses are not random, they expose where reliance truly lies. Tawakkul is not claimed, it is demonstrated in moments of stillness. When tawakkul becomes real, something shifts internally. The heart becomes less reactive. Fear no longer controls decisions. You stop interpreting every delay as a disaster. Even in pain, there is composure. Even in uncertainty, there is stability. This does not mean the struggle disappears, but it no longer defines you. Many people fail at this stage because silence feels unbearable. They want proof, they want reassurance, but Allah sometimes removes reassurance to strengthen reliance. He strips away signs so that the heart learns to stand without them. And once the heart can stand on trust alone, it becomes unshakable. So if you are in a season where effort continues but results do not, understand that you are being invited to a higher level of faith. Do not retreat from it. Stay consistent, stay sincere, and stay grounded in obedience. Because when you trust Allah without evidence, you are no longer relying on what you see. You are relying on who He is. And that is the essence of true tawakkul. When a believer has endured silence, accepted delay, continued making dua, grown internally, and learned to trust without evidence, they often find themselves in the quietest chapter of the journey. Nothing dramatic is happening, no doors are opening, no clear answers are appearing, and yet, this is often the moment closest to relief. Allah's help, more often than not, arrives after the longest stretch of stillness, not before it. Human experience teaches us to expect warning signs before change. We look for indicators, momentum, and gradual improvement, but Allah's way frequently defies this pattern. Many of His greatest interventions come suddenly, without announcement, after hope has been stretched to its limit. This is not cruelty, it is wisdom. If relief came too early, reliance would remain incomplete. The heart would still be leaning on signs rather than on Allah Himself. Psychologically, the final phase before breakthrough is the most vulnerable. The mind is exhausted, expectations are lowered, and emotional defenses are weakened. This is why many people give up at the edge of relief. They mistake exhaustion for failure and silence for finality. But what they do not realize is that Allah often allows strength to run out so that reliance can fully take over. When personal capacity ends, divine assistance begins. History repeatedly reflects this reality. When escape seemed impossible, it arrived. When doors were completely closed, they opened in unexpected ways. When solutions were no longer visible, Allah created them. These moments were not random, they were timed. Allah was allowing every false support to fall away so that the believer could witness, without doubt, that help came from Him alone. Philosophically, this teaches a profound lesson about hope. True hope is not optimism based on probability. It is confidence rooted in faith. When probability disappears, hope becomes an act of worship. Continuing to believe when there is no logical reason to do so is not naive, it is deeply spiritual. It is declaring that Allah's power is not limited by circumstances, trends, or expectations. This is also why breakthroughs feel overwhelming when they arrive. They are not just solutions, they are revelations. In that moment, the believer understands why silence was necessary, why delay was essential, and why patience was demanded. What once felt like abandonment is suddenly recognized as orchestration. Every unanswered question finds its place. From a behavioral standpoint, those who endure this phase emerge transformed. They no longer panic at delay or collapse under uncertainty. They have witnessed Allah's timing firsthand. Their faith is no longer theoretical, it is experiential. They have seen that when Allah decides, no obstacle can resist and no door can remain closed. But it is important to understand that the purpose of this phase is not only the outcome. The goal is not just the miracle, it is the maturity. Allah wants servants who are steady before relief, not just grateful after it. Those who remain upright in the darkest silence are the ones most prepared to carry blessings without losing humility. So if your life feels unusually quiet right now, if effort continues without visible return, do not assume you have been forgotten. You may be standing at the edge of divine intervention. Stay consistent in prayer. Stay disciplined in obedience. Stay hopeful even when logic argues against it. Because Allah does not abandon His servants in silence. He completes His work in it. And when the breakthrough comes, it will not just change your situation. It will confirm your faith in a way that nothing else ever could.